Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Hey, welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this session is John Aiken, who is a candidate for the 6th Legislative District State Representative, Position 2. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Lonnie. I'd like to thank you, Spokane Media Talks, for inviting me to be interviewed and for the folks to get to know me.
We hope that this provides a platform for everybody to be able to get their name and their face out in front of voters.
That's wonderful.
We were chatting a little bit before we started about the first question is always, where did you grow up? And you said you were an Air Force brat. So where did that take you?
It took me to, I was born in South Carolina on a Shaw Air Force Base. And from there, I've lived in New Mexico, Japan, Montana, Okinawa, and here in Washington State.
So you got to moving around quite a bit then?
Yes, we move every 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So I got to see a lot of the world and other cultures and religions that really expanded my knowledge of the world more by being a participant.
Yeah. Where did you finish up school?
I finished up school here at Eastern. I went to high school at Medical Lake. So I'm a product of Washington State education system.
Okay. And with all that traveling around, were there some parts of your school life as a kid that really drew you in, activities that were really important to you?
The most common ground that I found in everything I did was the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts exist everywhere in the world. And I started as a Cub Scout when I was 8 years old, and I finished as an explorer. And I got my Eagle, and I also the God and Country Medal for my duty to God and country.
Yeah, that's really nice for kids that are moving base to base, is to have that.
To have a something common.
Someplace to plug in when you get to the new station, new duty station. So one of the other questions I like to ask people about is their early work experience. What kind of jobs did you pick up when you first learned the connection between time and money?
My very first job was on Okinawa when I was 14 years old, and I worked as an errand boy for a fighter squadron. And my job was to clean the coffee cups of the fighter pilots. And they paid me like 50 cents an hour, and since I was 14, I could only work 4 hours a day. And I would have done it for nothing, just to be with
to hang out with the fighter pilots.
Because they'd have their jets just right at the front door, and when the siren goes, they would run out and hop on. And what was really neat is that I was kind of their little good luck charm. They'd pat me on the head, and I would wait for them to come back.
That actually sounds really fun for a 14-year-old.
Oh, it really was.
So moving on from the errand boy, what's your early? You said you got your degree from Eastern. What did you study?
I studied geology.
Okay.
I got my Bachelor of Science in geology, and I started to go for my graduate's degree, and I also went for an education degree in earth science from kindergarten to 8th grade. And I had a quarter to do of student teaching and my thesis to finish. But I was getting really deep in debt with student loans. It was over $30,000, and I couldn't find any work in my field of study. And it was pretty disheartening. So I did the the route that most people do. You start working in the fast foods. I worked at Fairchild Air Force Base as a dishwasher, and one day the cook quit, and they said, well, do you know how to cook? I said, well, I got the cooking merit badge. And they said, well, come with me. And I did such a wonderful job that they made me the breakfast bar cook. and from then I had other types of jobs. Eventually I did do some geology, which put me all over the western United States. And I was always gone, and I enjoyed the travel when I was young. When you're young, you want to travel. And after a while, I got tired of just being places for a few months and leaving and being away from home. Washington State is my home, and I've lived here since 1967.
So on those geology trips, what were some I love geology just totally as an amateur, but what were some interesting places you visited that people might know?
Oh, I went to the Death Valley, Mojave Desert, and to look for gold. I worked for gold companies there as a sampler and a geologist, and we'd do in this one mine I worked for. They would drill 200 or 300 blast holes, and my job was to take the samples from the blast holes and take it to the lab. And I did that for quite a while till it got so dangerous that I felt that I was on borrowed time, and I was right. The operator I was working with was killed when the pit walls collapsed and crushed him, and I would have been with him.
Oh my.
So somebody upstairs was watching over me.
Wow. So you came back to Spokane, and I suppose you couldn't do the geology here.
Well, with my geology background, I had a real strong computer background back before computers were popular. And the city was just getting into computer aid drafting, which I had knowledge of, and they hired me. And I worked at City Hall in the engineering department doing drafting for 3 years. But I'm a field man. I've always wanted to be in the field. As soon as I had the opportunity to go into the field as a public works inspector, I took it. And I stayed there for 30 years. And I had opportunity to go higher into the professional level. I qualified to take the engineer's test, but I chose to be in the field.
You found what you liked.
Yeah, I liked watching Spokane get built. I remember what it was like back in the late 60s, and there's no comparison from today till back then.
Is it your background in public works inspecting that was that part of prompting you to run for elected office? Well, what was your incentive to run for elected office? No,
that came from the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts teach us to be leaders, and it's just a natural thing. That is part of your civic duty as a citizen to serve your country in the military or in public offices, any way that you can.
Well, so the last question, we've come down to that last couple minutes, and for you to answer is, how do you see the duties of this elected office that you're running for, and why should voters choose you?
I see that this is a very complex job here, and you need the right person that understands these many issues that we have in government. And you can't be a one-issue candidate. It's too complex. And I feel that with my background that I have the knowledge and experience to fulfill the work for the people.
Okay, well, thank you very much, John, for coming in today, and I wish you a happy campaign.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.